How can I evaluate the best choice of archive format for compressing files? In general, I've observed the following. Linux Y files or tools use gzip or gzip for distributing archives. Windows Y files or tools use zip for distributing archives. Many people use 7-zip for creating and distributing their own archives. Questions? What are the advantages and disadvantages of these formats, all of which appear to be open formats? When /y should I choose one, say, 7-zip, over another, say, zip? Why does the trend above appear to hold, even though all of these are portable formats? Are there any particular advantages to using a particular archive format on a particular platform?
There are a large variety of compression formats and methods available. Some don't compress at all and are designed to store a number of files in one archive, and other newer experimental compressors, pack-based, are designed to compress as aggressively as possible, regardless of the time it takes to perform said operation. You need to evaluate the features you require from your compression method choice, and also consider the context in which it will be used. Different features and considerations include: compressionability. Does it shrink the file significantly enough? Ease of use. If the file is going to another user, will the archive be easy to extract or will it require more software to be installed? Password protection and/or encryption. Are these security measures required? Multiple volume support. If the target medium requires the file to be split into appropriate chunks, does the format support this elegantly? For example, 650 and NBSB, MB for a CD. Repairing and recovery. If the file becomes partially corrupt, does it offer a recovery record to aid restoration of data? Unicode support. Does the archiver support international file names or just standard ASCII? System requirements. Modern compressors such as 7-zip do offer the ability to increase compression efficiency by using a larger dictionary. A dictionary is a reference of commonly repeated data in a compressed file, but this in turn increases memory consumption at both compression and decompression time. Self-extraction support. Can the archive be rolled into an executable file that provides ease of use to whomever needs to use it? Also bear in mind you can only create a self-extractor for a single platform. Generally speaking, a Windows self-extractor will not work on Linux by default, unless run through a compatibility layer like Wine. File system attributes. Does the compressor store relevant file system metadata and permissions that may be worth preserving at point of extraction? Generally speaking, zip is the most ubiquitous format, but sizes over 4 and NBSB, GB aren't generally supported, if at all. Security support is generally regarded as poor. The standard password can be compromised with a plain text attack, and further encryption is generally implemented as an unofficial derivative of the format by commercial zip software vendors. Apart from that, most other popular formats will have some form of support on all operating systems by installing more software. My personal choice is 7-zip, as it has great and flexible compression, despite it having a peculiar user interface on Windows. There are decompressors for Linux and Mac and NBSB, OS and NBSB, X, although not GUI-based as standard.
One thing that comes to mind is a 2-year-old blog post from Jeff Atwood, File Compression in the Multicore Era. In that article he finds that Zip 2 outperforms 7-zip when running more than 2 cores.
As others have mentioned, the choice of a particular compression format is heavily dependent on the use and the intended audience. .tar.gz and tar.bz2 archives are ideal for use on Linux systems, and by extension for sharing files with Linux users, because the tar, gzip and gzip2 tools are largely ubiquitous on the platform, and because the tar format has full support for Unix permissions and other platform-specific properties. The choice between gzip and gzip2 to compress the tar archive is mainly a decision about speed versus compression ratio, with gzip2 delivering smaller files but with a much slower compression speed. The disadvantages of these formats include less compatibility with Windows and the potential need to uncompress the entire archive to extract a single file. Zip archives can be extracted on most platforms using native tools, so it is an ideal choice for sending an archive to a non-technical user who would be uncomfortable with installing third-party archive software such as 7-zip. The compression level isn't as good as more advanced algorithms and it doesn't support Unix permissions, but it is an excellent format if you wanted to send an archive of holiday photos to your grandmother, for example. Zip also provides some basic password protection, and can quickly extract a file from anywhere in the archive. .7-zip is good if you want the best possible compression ratios. Like zip, it doesn't support Unix file permissions or ownership, and is also not installed by default on most platforms, which makes it slightly more work to use, but it may be worth it on Windows if the compression ratio gains are important. In an all-Linux environment, it would be better to use the XZ Alzma compression tools along with tar, which operate in exactly the same way as gzip and gzip2 but use the more advanced Alzma algorithm like 7-zip.
To your first question, 7-zip is an archive can use many algorithms to compress and decompress data. To your second question, just make sure that the platform supports tools that support the given format. For example, I would avoid using RAR on the Mac. While it is possible to use, and there are free utilities that support it, they lack the much richer interface that Windows utilities that support RAR have, in my experience.
If you want to support the channel, please consider subscribing.